Hi, my name's Diane. You're currently watching the Just Kidding Around show. We want to thank you so much for joining us. Each week we introduce our home audience to different crafts, hobbies, and talents of local citizens. I am so excited this week to welcome Tom Keller. It's the first time he's been on our program, and I've waited over a year to get you here, and I'll explain that later. So before we do anything, Tom, we look in the camera. I believe camera 2's on, and we could shout out to somebody. I'm going to shout out to all the students at South Bay Elementary. I hope you're watching and learning.
And I'd like to say hello to all the members of the, the South Sound Mushroom Club, our local club here in town. Been around since 1972.
Okay, so thank you. I'm anxious to hear more about that club later. Okay, where do we start? First, let me start by telling you a little bit about Tom, and then you may correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, sure.
Tom is a local expert on mushrooms, which is no small thing because it takes years and years of study to be good at mushroom identification. He also is a teacher. If you recognize him, he's taught in the North Thurston district and
Tumwater and Olympia as well.
And Olympia, so all three districts. And is it true you also teach for the Mountaineers?
I do, yes. I'm sort of semi-retired from that, but I do,
Okay, so and we have a lot before, so may I start by asking you how long ago you first became interested in mushrooms?
Karen, my wife, and I became interested in mushrooms in 1981. Karen's brother did a program for Ed Hume, the gardening show.
Oh my goodness.
And on showing America how to propagate oyster mushrooms. And we learned from him, and we learned to do our own, grow our own oyster mushrooms. And then it's sort of a natural progression to start looking for wild mushrooms. And so we got out, when we moved to Washington State in '84, we joined the local club, the South Sound Mushroom Club. And it's been just one thing after another, but we're both past presidents of the club and have been with the club since 84, 85. So.
Okay, so I want to start, but I have to go back.
Yeah,
you
sure.
said, I thought you said that Ed Hume originally taught you in 1981.
No, Ed Hume taught, Ed Hume show, my brother-in-law, Mark, was on that show showing America how to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because Ed Hume's a local talent, right?
Well, he's a United States talent. I'm
Oh,
not
is
sure.
that right?
Yeah.
He's still around.
Yeah.
Okay, so you go back to about 81 to 84,
Yes,
about
right.
that far. And was the club around back then?
Yes, they started in, I think it was 1972.
72.
Yeah.
And are they the only mushroom club?
They're the only mushroom club in the Olympia area. There is a big club up in Seattle, has a couple of thousand members. We are also members of that club, and it's Puget Sound Mycological Society. And we attend some of their shows and some of their functions, but mostly we do local here.
Okay, so there really aren't that many. There aren't really that many mushroom clubs around.
No, I think there is one maybe in Centralia, and there's some others around the state. But
Right.
on this.
And how do you decide? How do you suggest a person learn about mushrooms? Should they be in a club and be with a group of people?
I think absolutely, because we have a number of books here that we can perhaps display later. But when you look at a picture, it's not the same as seeing it in real life. Going out to the field, picking it up, smelling it, looking at it, and then having somebody that's been doing it for a long time identify it for you. So that's the benefit of belonging to a club. They can take you through all the steps, show you which ones are good to eat, which ones are not, which ones are just fun to look at.
So can it be dangerous just going out to recreationally, on your own, collect mushrooms and bring them home and putting them in a nice omelet?
It would only be dangerous if you ate some of them that you didn't know which ones to eat. I mean, every mushroom is edible at least once, but beyond that.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So it is a good idea.
Good.
No, there's very few that are deadly, but those are the ones you definitely have to stay
Are there
away from.
antidotes for the deadly ones?
By the deadliest ones, by the time that the poison has reacted to and shut down your kidney and your liver, it's and it usually takes several days for that to happen. You don't realize that you've been poisoned, so the effect is already there. You know,
so they can be more deadly than a snake, maybe.
Well, yeah, they could be. Yeah.
And how about Washington State? Do we have more deadly mushrooms here than most areas? Or?
Not really. I mean, there's really very few that are deadly. There's a whole bunch that'll make you sick. There's a whole bunch that'll, make you wish you were dead, but they won't kill you. So.
Okay. So then we don't want to scare our viewers off of mushrooms, but that we do want to start with a warning that you should start with the club.
Start with the club and get some good books.
You have some experts there because the picture's nice. But like you said, the smell, the texture, actually seeing it.
Sure.
So why don't you tell us about some of do you have a favorite mushroom yourself?
We do. As a matter of fact, I think our favorite is the Boletus edulis. It's a big, fat-looking mushroom with, instead of having gills underneath, it has tubes or pores underneath it. And it's a really good edible. In fact, you may have heard the word porcini, or you may have heard the term sep or steinpilz or billy or penny bun. Those are all other countries' names for that mushroom. And if you were to ask the top 100 chefs in the world, that would be almost their favorite.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So then how does a person, I mean, when I go to the store, I see maybe chanterelles, maybe, little button ones. So how would I get my hands on? Do I have to find it myself?
You almost have to, unless you want to pay exorbitant prices. A quarter ounce of Boletus edulis might cost you $10.
Oh my gosh!
And that's not going to go very far.
Yeah.
It's, one meal or something. So.
Okay. So do they use certain mushrooms? Are mushrooms always used in recipes, or are there other ways to use mushrooms?
Well, I mean, besides eating them, they're using them for a remediation of the soil. They're helping to break down the heavy metals, the oils, using filtration bags.
Oh my gosh!
They're using them for the main, of course, is for replenishing the forest itself. When the tree loses its limbs, the mushrooms or the mycelium attacks the branches and turns them back into soil.
Oh my gosh!
And without that, the forest would have suffocated years ago.
Hey, that was worth the price of admission right there.
Right.
So the purpose, everything in the environment has a purpose. People don't realize that. We think, we'll just kill the bees, whatever, kill this, kill that, whatever. So mushrooms, whether they're poisonous or not, it doesn't matter. They still have this purpose.
They have a purpose, right?
To help the leaves turn into soil, back into
exactly.
soil. And you're saying that they might be able to help us clean up our environment?
Yes, they do. The Douglas fir, which we have a lot of around here, supports over 2,000 mushrooms. Different mushrooms.
Wow.
And they have what they call a symbiotic relationship with the mushroom. That the trees need the mushrooms to help spread their roots and provide nutrients for the trees, and the mushrooms get nutrients from the tree.
So if we kill all the mushrooms with our pesticides, because we're pretty good at using those pesticides, so that could destroy our forest?
It could, yeah.
That doesn't have anything to do with the forest fires that are going on. Let's hope not. No, that's totally different. All right, so so mushrooms though, what is the history of people eating mushrooms? If they are originally here in our environment to help support our trees and our soil, do you know any history of people eating them? Have they been eating them for thousands of years? What happened? Did some guy just go out in the woods and trip and fall and a mushroom landed in his mouth? How did that happen?
In Asia, in China and Japan and some of the ancient countries, they have documented eating mushrooms for thousands of years. And they probably started out with somebody experiment. Well, let's try this one. Tastes pretty good, didn't hurt me, so they continue to eat them. And they were able to branch out from there. It's not a good thing to recommend locally. That's why you want to join a club and know what you're looking at. But that's what they did, I'm sure, years ago, and they figured out all the different berries and the trees and the whatever they can eat and mushrooms. But they also used mushrooms for starting their fires as a tinder.
Oh.
There's a mushroom that you can break the fibers apart, and it makes an excellent fire holder. And they would put an ember in that and wrap it up in maybe leaves, and it would burn in there for days. And then they would get to their new, because they're always traveling, so they would get to their new spot and blow on it and get it started again, and then they have their fire.
Hey,
Yeah.
for survivalists out
the
there.
Iceman, the fellow they found, the 5,000-year-old guy they found up in the mountains in I think it's in Italy. He was carrying two different mushrooms, one for stomach ailments and the other one for fire. So.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so now you bring up another topic. When I think of mushrooms, I mean, you've already exposed me to new thoughts, but I think of their medicinal qualities.
Absolutely.
Where are they on the chart of being medicinal?
Well, I think it's 6 or 7 of your major medicines came from mushrooms. Penicillin, amoxicillin, they're all molds, they're all fungus.
Yeah, they are.
And so because of that, Dr. Fleming found penicillin and basically revolutionized the medical field. People were dying of just, lesser illnesses. So now with the I don't think I brought the book, but we have a book called Medicinal Mushrooms, essentially, and it will outline what mushroom will treat which ailment. And there's a number of them that do. And a lot of them are antitoxin, and a lot of them are just beneficial for your health. And the Chinese have a mushroom that 10,000 years ago they called it the mushroom of life, and that's the reishi. It doesn't grow wild in this area, but you can buy it in this area.
Reishi?
Reishi, yeah.
How do you spell that?
Reishi, I believe it is.
Okay, and what's it known for?
It's known for promoting well health.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting, we started out, and I guess I started sort of in a negative tone, talking about all the poisonous mushrooms, because they do kind of come with a warning. But in reality, they do us far more good
Oh, sure,
than
yeah.
harm.
Yeah.
So does the Pacific Northwest have more mushrooms than most places?
Pretty much so, yeah. I think we have a wider variety of mushrooms. Estimates in the tens of thousands.
Oh my goodness.
And, mushrooms that have been identified are way beyond that. But, yeah.
Do people travel and come here to?
Well, they do. Yes, they
Yeah?
do. In fact, we have people that start in California and make their way north.
Oh my gosh.
And and then vice versa, they go the
Just
other way.
looking for mushrooms.
Certain
and studying.
mushrooms, right?
And how many mushrooms have you personally identified?
Karen and I have probably personally identified 200 to 300.
Oh my goodness.
We only eat about 25 different ones, but yeah.
Have you discovered a mushroom nobody else has? Do you know?
No, I haven't, but I've discovered mushrooms that I've never seen before. And every year we try to find a new mushroom or two, and that's kind of a goal every year.
Tom has referred to his wife Karen, and she did a show earlier with us about a year ago.
Yeah,
and you guys are both, I don't want to say rock hounds, that's not a good term,
Well,
is it?
that is, more so Karen. I spent years in the Mountaineers teaching climbing, and then I've kind of the last few years been doing more in the mushroom field.
Oh,
but,
okay.
yeah.
Are those compatible?
Yeah, they are, because a lot of people are out hiking and scrambling and hunting and fishing, and they're out there in the woods and they find a mushroom and they go, oh wow, what is this?
Yeah.
And is it edible? And that's sort of the first two questions they ask. And primarily, the first mushroom most people in this area find is chanterelles.
Yes.
And they're very easy to find, and because of the color, they stand out in the woods, and they're quite edible.
And we want to fry them.
And they're quite good, yeah.
Are mushrooms healthier cooked? Is that true?
All mushrooms should be cooked, yeah, because it breaks down the hard outer shell called a chitin, which is similar to the hard outer shell of lobster and shrimp and all that. And if you don't cook them, then it just passes through your system without you getting the nutrients from them.
We are so lucky to have you here. I know you're a busy man. I just feel so fortunate, because as I I said before, Tom is certainly an expert. Now, can we start identifying a few?
Sure.
So you have a lot here.
Yes, so we brought a few.
Should the camera be on this or which one?
and you could certainly start with the
Can we start
shiitake
with,
log.
this is a shiitake log?
Shiitake log, and we're growing this at home. We have two of these, and this is actually the second flush. In other words, the second growth. We had the log was totally loaded with them, and then we cut all those off and ate them, and then we submerged it in water, and then a week or so later, now they're coming back again.
So did you go out in the environment and dig this up, or did you buy it?
We're fortunate to because of our speaking engagements, we do get some free materials, and this was one of them.
Oh, here's your present.
Right, and so we were
there's a
given.
good picture.
Yeah,
Thank
we were
you.
given a couple of those to
Thank you for that
to work
close-up.
on, and then in addition to that, we're growing some oyster mushrooms. We don't have any samples of those here with us, but
so the camera's on this now, Tom. Could you tell us again what this log is? Shiitake?
yes, it's shiitake, and it's
Shiitake.
what it is: compressed sawdust, probably a hardwood sawdust, and you can inoculate logs by drilling holes in them and putting plugs in them with the spawn, but it's a longer process. It's like a 2 or 3 year process.
And how?
This is just a month.
So how long will this last? You said you cut it already once.
Yeah, well, and it was covered in them, so there's only maybe 6 or 8 mushrooms on there right now, but in another week or so, we might have another 10 or 12 mushrooms growing
But
on it.
how many generations
So
would be there?
maybe 2 or 3.
And then
and then it's used up, and then you can put that in your garden, and maybe you'll get a few more. But
what a fun gift. That sounds neat. And then what do you do with shiitakes again?
Shiitakes are probably the best all-around mushroom for medicinal, for good edibility. They're excellent in soups. They're excellent in stir fries. They're really good. Yeah.
All right. Now you've got. Did you freeze dry these? What are these?
No, we dehydrate them. This particular jar, and I'm sure the camera wouldn't show it, but this is.
Can we shake them out, put them in our hands?
We could, yeah, we could.
Just a little.
These are morels, and these are from
morel.
Eastern Washington.
Okay.
And they're quite an unusual looking mushroom. They stand. I think we may have a picture going around on the screen, but. Anyway, they're very conical looking, and they're quite edible. They're again one of the best mushrooms.
Morels.
Yes, morels.
And chanterelles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, is there a mushroom season?
Yes, there is. In fact, the morel season is in the spring, and typically it's usually only in the month of, well, let me backtrack a little bit. It starts lower elevations earlier when the cottonwoods bud out. And then once that has gone past, then they're up a little bit higher in elevation, maybe 2,000 feet. And then they keep going up in elevation. But typically the season is in the spring, and usually by the end of May it's over with.
Well, now that surprised me because I think of mushrooms as growing in a boggy, damp, kind of wet. But then you're talking about how you go up high in elevation, then I think of that as being drier.
During the spring, the first spring after a forest fire, in areas where the forest fire has maybe not burned all of it, these come up in quite profusion.
Really?
Because it changes the pH in the soil, and it generates mushrooms. And I think they're also wanting to come up to help I don't know, propagate their own species, because what happens is when the mushroom pops up, it releases spores. A 4-inch mushroom might release 10 million spores into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And those are the seeds for the future. So that's what these guys do. All those little nooks and crannies, that's where the spore comes out. So after a fire, they want to continue growing, I guess, somewhere.
So are you telling me that after a forest fire, mushrooms can help restore the environment? Or at least themselves.
Somewhat, yeah, themselves, right.
They
But
restore
it's all in balance because the trees are eventually going to come back. The mushroom spore is in the ground already because it's already fallen to the ground and been probably covered up.
Okay.
So yeah.
And then how did you freeze dry these
No, we
yourselves, or you buy them this way?
dehydrate them. Yeah,
I mean,
we
dehydrate
do
'em,
our
I'm
own. Yeah, dehydrate.
Oh.
We have some round dehydrators and.
What a wonderful couple you guys are.
Yeah,
You
and
do
then
such
so we have a number of
interesting
different
things.
mushrooms there that we brought
All right.
samples of. But
Okay.
yeah,
And I wonder if we can ask Tom to, not this Tom,
this time. Okay.
Waldo Tom,
Yeah.
if he can put a picture up and maybe, are those pictures available? You brought some pictures,
Yes,
and Tom was kind enough.
they took some pictures, yeah.
You want to talk to us
sure.
about that?
This is Karen holding a couple of pretty good-sized Boletus edulis, and that's the one I was telling you that the chefs consider one of the very, very best. It has a real mushroomy taste. You can do like an au gratin with layers of mushrooms and potatoes and cream, and it's just wonderful. Makes a wonderful soup.
But that's one I'm not going to find in a grocery store.
Probably not, although unless you want to pay some
Right.
a lot of money
So
for them.
most mushrooms you're on your own to find.
You do, right. And that's, again, where clubs help out because they will take you to spots where they know they're growing, and that's what we do. We always take new people to different areas that we know they're going to be there and help
Okay.
them find them. And so this particular day, we found over 50 of those. And then by the time you dry them, a 1 pound mushroom might only weigh 4 ounces after it's been
goodness.
dried.
You find mushrooms that weigh a pound?
Those do, yeah. The ones
they're
that she was
huge.
holding, they can get to be, dinner plate size.
Oh
yeah.
my goodness. Now
And
don't
this-
say anything.
all
I want
right.
to say
Go ahead.
chanterelle.
Chanterelles,
I love
golden
'em.
chanterelles, yeah.
Yeah.
Cantharellus, it used to be Cibarius, now it's Formosus. Cantharellus formosus is the
So
is the
are there,
mushroom.
you said something about golden, that chanterelle, are there
The
different
golden,
chanterelles?
yes, is a white one, yeah.
Just the two colors.
And these are giant puffballs. You can see by the backpack they're pretty good size. We have found them as big as soccer balls.
Oh my God.
So, and they're quite edible. They're very good if they're fresh. You cut them open, they're white inside, they're not starting to turn. But the typical puffball that you see, you step on them and you get big clouds of dust, right? You ever stepped on
No,
puffballs?
I don't think
Okay,
I
well,
have.
try it sometime and you'll see
Wow.
the millions of spore coming out of them.
Oh my
because-
goodness. Do animals eat mushrooms?
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
Which
and they
animals?
even eat poisonous ones.
And that it's okay. They know.
They have different systems, yeah. And the one that's showing now is the morels, the morchella.
Oh, that's what the morel
That's what they look
looks
like. These happen to be blonde ones, but
Okay.
there's all different colors of mushrooms.
Okay. And what is this one now?
It's this one here is a relative of the Boletus edulis. It's a Lexinum orientaiacum is the common name for it. Some of them are birch boletes and so on, but they're also a good edible.
Did you take these pictures
Yeah,
yourself? All these pictures?
Well, not all of them. There's a couple of them
some
that
of
were
them?
not. I don't think I took that one.
I just
actually.
can't believe this because I don't
Yeah.
I see some mushrooms
Yeah.
out there, but I don't see this huge variety that you do. Do you have to kind of really search to?
Well,
get
you
it?
have to be out there at the right times or the right times of the year.
And you said the season for morels is spring.
is the spring.
Well, what about, are there seasons for other mushrooms?
The late summer and fall for the chanterelles, the fall for the boletes, shaggy manes, puffballs, mostly in the fall. We do find some in the spring. And some of them overlap.
Okay.
And so.
And does our state have more mushrooms than other states? Is
yeah.
there any other state out there that has a lot?
I don't think so. Maybe with the exception of California, they may have more, but they're a bigger state. So.
California's drier, though, I would think.
Yeah,
But
well,
again, they grow
yeah.
in dry places,
Right,
too.
they do.
don't
In
just-
fact, the truffle grows out in the desert. And the Sahara Desert has mushrooms. Arizona has over 300 mushrooms.
Oh, my gosh.
And we live there for part of the year.
So they have their purpose. And I would think the whole rainforest would have a lot. But
They do. They
There I
do.
am
Yeah, and
thinking
they have
damp
particular
again.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any books you recommend that we use to start
Yes.
with?
In fact, I've got a number of books here. Can he film them or?
I think the red camera 2, I think
okay
is
then.
on.
Well,
I can hold it over my face.
Yeah. All right.
There we go.
Okay. All right. This book right here is written by a fellow that we know, and we've known him for quite a few years, and it's Mushrooms of the Pacific Northwest.
Oh,
so obviously
all right.
it's a good book, and we like it. But it's more technical, and I'll have you hold this one up now. This is one that I used to use as a textbook when I taught the course at South Puget Sound Community College on
Okay.
mushrooms, and it was written by Margaret McKinney, who they named a
I
park
didn't know
after,
that name.
and
Oh,
they named
yeah,
a
yeah.
school after her. And
Oh.
Daniel Stuntz, who was a professor at the University of Washington.
Oh, how
So
about that?
those two people have been long gone, and this book it's been reprinted a few times, but it's the best because it tells you what the common name is, the Latin name, whether it's edible, what season, what time of the year, and so on. This book,
And it's
the
still in
first,
print, you said.
right? And you can still get it, yeah.
Okay.
And that's the new savory wild mushroom. This book is more technical in that it doesn't tell you if they're edible necessarily, and it doesn't tell you the common name. So you have to
Wow.
kind of know what the Latin name is.
So-
And the reason we use Latin names is because the morel itself has over 47 common names,
Oh my goodness,
So-
just for the morale?
just for the morel, yeah.
Well, Tom,
different
I got
regions.
bad news for you. We're going to have to wrap up the show.
Okay, that's all right.
Our cameraman's out there doing
Yeah,
all his little dance, but oh
Sure.
my gosh, it was worth the wait to have you, but of course now I want part 2. I wish we could go out in the field with our
Yeah.
cameras.
Well,
but-
I mean, we can certainly do that.
Well,
but,
no, I
yeah.
can't. I don't go in the field. We film in the studio. So this will be on the air. It will be on
Okay.
YouTube if you want to look it up that way too.
Sure,
I want to
sure.
thank you so much for joining
Yeah,
us.
well, it's been fun, yeah.
Just Kidding Around show is on every Saturday, Sunday, and Wednesday. And you were very fortunate to hear this excellent speaker today, Tom
Thank you,
Keller. And
thank you.
please rejoin us sometime.
Yes, I certainly will.
Bye. Thanks for a wonderful crew. You drove a long way to be here. Thank you.
The English army came in boats. It was buckskin versus bright red coats. Then the Yankees won the war and wrote our country's constitution. The United States Constitution. For we the people here decree with the right to life and liberty.